The shopping plaza that literally sunk into the ground. Ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to discuss City View Center, located in Garfield Heights, Ohio, probably about 30 minutes from where I live. And when I was younger, I used to always remember, going on the highway and passing by and seeing an abandoned brick building that was partially built. And yes, that was going to be part of the City View Center complex. That was not the main area. I'm going to discuss with full aerial photos of the entire City View Center, what went wrong, what happened in terms of the development, and where is it today? Well, currently, it is a power center. It once held many big box stores such as Walmart, Giant Eagle, Circuit City, PetSmart, Joann Fabrics, Dick's Sporting Goods, Bed Bath & Beyond, Office Max, and Marshalls, and they did plan and start construction on the other side of the highway of a potential expansion to where they were going to put up a Home Depot and possibly a Target, but that building was never finished. The shopping center opened in 2006 after 2 years of construction. After the big box stores opened, construction began outside the main plaza for additional restaurants and retail such as Radio Shack, Applebee's, Steak and Shake, Ruby Tuesday, and First Merit. The shopping plaza suffered significant and rapid decline as the first store to close was Joann Fabrics in 2008, so it only lasted 2 years. Later that same year, Walmart announced they would be closing the Garfield Heights Walmart store permanently because of ongoing safety concerns at the site, including structural problems and potentially explosive methane gas related to the disused landfill beneath the site. They built a shopping center on top of a landfill. This was their genius idea back in 2004, and it began to sink into the ground. And you can go back on Google Maps and archive and see all of the different cracks and all of the different development of the original City View Center in 2006, 2008, 2010. It was really only operating at its peak. Well, actually, it never operated at its peak because they planned to add more stores on the other side of the highway and also stores in and around the original main area that had the Walmart, the Joann Fabric, and many of the others. They wanted to add more stores around there. There's actually another abandoned, unfinished construction site located right next to the main plaza, which would have been another store. So it was never at peak capacity, but it really only lasted at least the major stores like Walmart and Joann Fabrics for 2 years, and it is very rare to see a Walmart, basically unheard of, open up a store and then leave after 2 years. The only reason that would happen would be some type of external issue, which is exactly what this was. They built it on a landfill. It begins to sink into the ground. You can see the literal photo of how far it sunk. There's stairs that are floating because it's sunken into the ground, and they said, listen, we can't operate here. They end up moving 2 years after it initially opened. After Walmart's closure in 2008, PetSmart also announced that they would be closing their store after complaining that its lease terms were violated because Home Depot never opened. That was another store that was under construction, but it never finished. Shortly after the Circuit City store closed, late in 2008, the Circuit City space was converted into a Bottom Dollar, which is like a Dollar General store. In late 2009, Bed Bath & Beyond closed. In January of 2010, Dick's Sporting Goods closed 2 months shy before its 4-year run prior to the store's opening day. And in March of 2010, plans to convert the former Walmart into a convention center were canceled. Meanwhile, Bottom Dollar later closed in 2010, 1 month shy before the store reached its 1 year of operation. The second to last tenant of the space, Office Max, announced that they would be closing their store in November of 2015. And as of 2023, Giant Eagle is the only remaining store in the Transportation Boulevard complex. Applebee's also remains open, and there's some funny signs. There's a sign like with Applebee's that's been there for at least a decade because I can trace it back on the Google images, but just taking a look at the aerial view of it, you can see on the one side of the highway, that's the major developed area. That's where, that's where the Giant Eagle is. It's where the Walmart was. The Walmart actually did go abandoned and people would explore it. It's not abandoned anymore. It's been redeveloped, but you can see on the other side, that was the area that I would always pass by when I was younger, and I thought it was going to be like a Target or something because it has that brick exterior. I don't actually think it was going to be a Target, but you can see the development of a store completely unfinished, trying to build it on a landfill, and then there's also another store that was finished, maybe some type of grocery store, maybe an Aldi, all the way at the end, and you can kind of see through the years. It never opened. It was built almost to completion, and it since has had all of its windows knocked out. It's completely hollowed. It is over a decade, almost 2 decades at this point. If it was built around 2008, 2009, about 15 years, just an abandoned building sitting there with construction completely halted and abandoned. Now, the original main complex area of City View Center, it was announced on February of 2018. Empty buildings on the site were being considered as replacement facilities for the Garfield Heights Police Department, Court, and Jail. In May of 2019, the then owner of the site failed to pay back an $81 million loan, and in April of 2020, the mortgage on the property was acquired by an Industrial Commercial Properties LLC, which planned to redevelop the site as a business park. The redevelopment was completed in 2021, and you can see from these photos on Google Maps some of the redeveloped area where the Walmart was, that entire strip outside of the Giant Eagle, which still remains there to this day. All of the rest of it is some type of business park, and it's kind of curious considering how it's built, why they would even use that and redevelop it, considering the land on top of it sank and really caused significant issues with cracks in the ground, the methane gas, because you're building something on top of a landfill. They thought it was going to be a revolutionary idea. It was the exact opposite. And this place really never came close to reaching its potential, and now just sits the one side of it on the one side of the highway. It's just a completely vacant, barren landscape with 2 brick exterior design half-built buildings, and then the other side of it is redeveloped into a business park with a Giant Eagle on the one side. And there also still is another abandoned, I don't know what that was going to be, looked kind of like a smaller building, probably not a Home Depot or anything like that, although I know Home Depot was supposed to come into the complex. Another interesting fact, the original Walmart that was built in 2006 was one of the last Walmarts that was not built as a supercenter, but it was built with a very easy conversion to a supercenter. So they were planning on expanding the Walmart and converting it to a supercenter. Nowadays, they just build them right up as supercenters rather than converting them. But back in the early 2000s, they would build some Walmarts just as your typical store, like kind of back in the 90s or the early 2000s before Walmart got absolutely massive and they had to, incorporate all these different things. It was more of like an everything store, and that was the plan for that Walmart. Of course, it never happened because it only lasted 2 years there, and apparently this was supposed to be an Old Navy, which really does make sense based on its size. That is the unfinished building right there. And also on the site, you do have a methane gas relief system that had to be installed because methane was a problem with it being built on a landfill. So you can see different areas where the methane gas comes up and gets let out, and they had those around the buildings as well. They had to like reinstall pipes and things because the foundation was sinking into the floor. But either way, that is just the story of City View Center, now pretty much completely abandoned outside of the Giant Eagle. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Make sure you're following me on X. Link to that's always in the description.